In 1600, the Atlantic coast of North America, the present-day United States, was home to well over 100 Indian nations. Nations nourished by fertile farmlands and bountiful hunting and fishing. Well-maintained gardens produced corn, squash, and a variety of other fruits and vegetables. Summer fishing camps stretched along the barrier islands. Sounds and estuaries swarmed with fish, harvested by traps and nets. Land, people, and teachings had melded into a rich, sophisticated way of life. At the very center of the Atlantic seaboard, south of present-day Washington, D.C., 30 small nations united in the early 1600s to form the powerful Powhatan Confederacy. The Powhatan Confederacy was built by a charismatic leader who traveled between his many subject towns with an entourage of bodyguards and followers. His name was Wahunsanakawa. Through diplomacy, he held 30 nations together, and through military strength, he controlled the region. In 1607, an English ship sailed up Chesapeake Bay and into the lands of the Powhatan. The ship was captained by a soldier of fortune, John Smith. Hoping to be the first successful English colony in North America, the small but well-armed expedition landed at a place they would call Jamestown. As Jamestown took shape, Wahunsanakawa carefully weighed his options. He could destroy the settlement, but he was well aware of the power of European weapons and knew that an attack would be costly in Powhatan lives. Wahunsanakawa also saw the advantage of trade for European weapons and tools. He chose to watch and wait, monitoring the progress of the settlement through the eyes of his most trusted ally, his brother, Opishkankano, chief of the most powerful Powhatan nation, the Pamunkey. During their first winter, the colonists were barely able to provide for their basic needs, and many died. Opishkankano reported that the desperate English had begun entering Powhatan towns and taking food by force. Wahunsanakawa decided that he had to bring the colony under his direct control. He ordered the capture of John Smith and had the English captain brought before him. Present was Wahunsanakawa's favorite daughter, Pocahontas. The romantic story of Pocahontas saving Smith from death was undoubtedly an example of Smith's own creativity. His account of the incident, written immediately afterward, said nothing of his life being threatened. Only his memoirs, written 17 years later, included the story. In fact, in his memoirs, he claimed to have been saved from death at the last moment by beautiful women, no less than 3 times. In reality, it is probable that Wahunsanakawa cemented an alliance by proclaiming Smith leader of the Powhatan's newest subject town, Jamestown. Having established his supremacy and English submission, Wahunsanakawa released Smith. But as new people and supplies arrived from England, the colony tried a new tack to gain the upper hand. The English attempted to crown Wahunsanakawa king of the Powhatan, which would make him a subject king of England. But the coronation turned into a farce.
And a foul trouble there was to make him kneel to receive his crown. He, neither knowing the majesty nor meaning of a crown, nor bending of the knee, endured so many persuasions, examples, and instruction as tired them all. At last, by leaning hard on his shoulders, he a little stooped, and Captain Newport put the crown on his head. John Smith, English captain.
The true balance of power was reflected in the trade between the two nations. The English were forced to pay extremely high prices in copper and trade goods for Powhatan food. New arrivals to the colony were shocked at the exchange rate. And the situation was an embarrassment to John Smith and the English. Finally, emboldened by an infusion of new weapons and men, Smith saw his chance to tilt the balance of power toward Jamestown. In January 1609, he took a military contingent into a Pamunkey town and seized Opishkankano and held him at gunpoint. His soldiers plundered the Pamunkey food stores, then demanded regular food tribute. If the Pamunkey did not comply, Smith promised to load his ships with their dead carcasses. Despite the assault, Wahunsanakawa strove to maintain the peace.
Why will you take by force what you may have quietly by love? Why will you destroy us who supply you with food? What can you get by war? We are unarmed and willing to give you what you ask, if you come in a friendly manner, and not with swords and guns. Waunse nakewa, Powhatan.
But the English allowed for no diplomatic solution. No longer pretending to respect Powhatan authority, they used their weapons to take what they wanted, including Powhatan land. The survival of the Powhatan people at stake, Wahunsanakawa finally turned to war in August of 1609. It would continue unabated for 4 years. Then, in April 1613, Pocahontas was kidnapped for the ransom of all English prisoners of war. The English captives were released, but Pocahontas remained a hostage. While held, she was indoctrinated daily in English customs and Anglican religion. Then the prisoner declared she had fallen in love with one of her captors, John Rolfe. The weary Wahunsanakawa agreed to a truce, hoping to see his daughter again.
I am not so simple as to not know that it is much better to eat good meat, sleep comfortably, laugh and be merry with the English, than to run away from them and lie cold in the woods, and to be so hunted that I can neither eat nor sleep. Waunse nakewa, Powhatan.
Pocahontas was baptized Lady Rebecca, and peace was sealed with her marriage to John Rolfe. 2 years later, with their infant son, they sailed to England. Pocahontas was a sensation in London. She was shown in the best circles and presented to the king. But the woman billed as the right-thinking savage would not see her home again. She became ill, and in March of 1617, as she prepared to sail for Jamestown, Pocahontas died. She was 22 years old. With his lands shrinking, the death of his daughter finally broke Wahunsanakawa's heart. He relinquished power and died the following year. For Wahun Sanakawa's brother, Opishkankano, the struggle continued, and he faced a grave situation. The American practice of smoking tobacco was taking hold in England. Demand for Virginia tobacco gave Jamestown a cash crop and the need for more Powhatan land for cultivation. For the next 25 years, Opishkankano would lead the Powhatan in wars for their land and sovereignty. But by 1645, the struggle was becoming hopeless. The aged Opishkankano was carried into battle on a litter. He could not walk without help. He could not see without his servants holding his eyelids open. The last Powhatan War ended with the capture of the 90-year-old leader. Opishkankano was murdered, shot in the back by an English guard. The powerful Powhatan Empire had proved unable to stem the tide of colonial expansion. On the little land that was left them, Powhatan people live to this day. Some descendants of the two brothers who guided their people through the first generation of contact.